this project, I started out with a punch bowl set that I had actually picked up at a garage sale this weekend for $2. Can you believe it? And I'm going to cut some flower petals, small flower petals, and I'm going to do this slow so that you can watch. So if you just nip around the perimeter like that, you'll end up with a piece like that, pointy at each end, and then I'm cutting it in half. And there's you end up with two identical pieces. One I drop, of course, and then you end up with a pointy end and a flat end. And all I'm doing is nipping the two corners of the flat end to give it a rounded appearance at the top. And no, it's not perfect, but it'll work fine. If it's a larger piece, you could probably nip it a little more to make it look more rounded, but being this small, this is the best way to do it. Again, a flat part and a pointy part. And then the very top, I'm just nipping both of the corners, just like that, and you end up with a little flower petal. So when you're nipping around the perimeter of something round, the way that you angle your nippers will, if you put it like that, you'll get a larger piece, and the closer to the top you angle it, you'll get a smaller piece. So here I am again with one long piece, cutting it in half, and then you have a pointed end and a flat end, and you just nip off the two edges to make it appear round at the top. And again, no, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. And the larger that the pieces that you get, the more nipping you can do around the top. It might need a little bit more nipping to make it look rounder, but these are so tiny. Simply cutting off those two edges works fine. After I've cut up a whole bunch of flower petals, I get out my Vivor tumbler. This is a 3-pound tumbler that I keep in the house, and I only use for water. I don't put any grit in it, and I use this just to take the sharp edges off of the flower petals. So I put the glass in, I put some water in, and then I put a squirt of Dawn dish soap in. And the only thing that the Dawn dish soap does is it cleans the glass. Of course, you probably want to clean it before, but this will get anything on it off that you may have missed. And I put the top back on. Next, I put the barrel right on top of the tumbler, and this has two knobs on it. This first one actually turns it on, and this tells you the speed, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then the other knob is the number of days. It can go from 1 to 9 days. So I go ahead and I turn it on, and this number 1 is the number of days, so you actually have to set some kind of a timer to remind you to take it off after an hour. And then I just take the top off, I dump it into a colander, I rinse it with clear water, and this is just so simple, and then nothing is pointy or sharp anymore, and you don't risk cutting yourself. And if you sell your glass art, you don't risk your customers cutting themselves. It's just such a simple thing to do. And of course, if you do not have a tumbler, you can use some kind of a sanding block and sand around the edges and especially the point. And then I just dump it out on a towel, and it looks exactly the same. It's just not sharp anymore. So next I take the Tamiya translucent spray paint and give some of it a coat of the yellow. Just so you know, you only need to spray one side of the glass, and it's in your best interest to spray the non-textured side. Otherwise, it can drip down and pool into the little nooks and crannies. And some of it, a coat of the pink Tamiya translucent spray paint. And this Tamiya spray paint is wonderful because it doesn't run, it doesn't fade, and it only takes like a half an hour or so to dry. Bottles are small, but they are very concentrated. And I took a 13 by 13 inch frame that I had painted and cleaned up the glass, and I took painter's tape and I put it around the perimeter of the back of the frame where the glass would sit. This serves two purposes. It helps to hold the glass in place, and it helps to prevent resin leaks. And honestly, this is probably going to be the last time I only use tape. I'm going to go back to using glue and then tape because I had another leak. So it's just isn't good enough. Then I had printed this up on my Cricut machine, and originally I was going to do it just or very similar to that, but my idea changed as it went along. But anyway, I taped that to the back, and then I took clear Elmer's glue and I traced around the umbrella line, doing all of the lines. And then I took a 4 millimeter rhinestone black chain and put it right on top of all of the Elmer's glue lines, the clear Elmer's glue. Clear Elmer's glue will not show up under resin, whereas regular Elmer's glue will. It dries very foggy. So, and then the next important thing is to have this glue and the rhinestone chains dry probably overnight to make sure everything is stiff and attached really well before you put the glass on, because you don't want the rhinestone chains moving around. I mean, I have put it on before it was dry, but it really is in your best interest to wait if you can. So after that was done, I took the backing off, and the reason you need to take the backing off at one point is to be able to look at the glass more clearly, lift it up, and make sure there aren't any empty spots. So now I'm going to let this dry overnight. So while that was drying, I took some Ashland decorative filler, and this was actually a very pale purple that I had picked up at Michael's. And I'm using a darker purple translucent Tamiya spray paint to make it a darker purple. And this Tamiya spray paint is great. It does not run, it does not fade, it dries within a half an hour. And this I do end up giving 2 coats. I do put a coat of it on, let it dry for a half an hour, kind of mix it up, and put 1 more coat on. After they're all dry, the rhinestone chain and the glass, I go ahead and I sprinkle it all over the umbrella and fill in all the different areas. And like I said, it's really important to pick up the glass off the table. And don't tip it up, though. I've done that before. Pick it up and look and make sure all your areas are covered, because sometimes you can't see when it's setting on top of an opaque surface. And then after I get all the glass in, well, I fill in the very top of the umbrella too. I do take clear Elmer's glue and I go over all of the glass, and this is not necessary. The only reason I did it was I knew I was going to be moving it around a lot, and I didn't want to take the chance of bumping it and all of the glass falling out of it. So again, this clear Elmer's glue has to be totally dry, at least overnight, before you put any resin on it. And that's what I did. I let it set overnight and dry. So the next day it was ready for the resin. I filled the rest of the umbrella with some black crushed glass from Michael's. And then I took painter's tape and cleaned up around the perimeter of the umbrella. I find that's the easiest way to pick up glass instead of trying to pick it up with your fingers and leaving fingerprints all over. Picks up any excess hairs and everything else. Next, it was ready for the resin. The resin I'm using for this project is Let's Resin Resin. It's an epoxy resin, 2-part, 1-to-1 ratio, mixed like most other resins, slowly in a cup for 3 minutes, scraping the sides and scraping the bottom. Now, I do not particularly care for this on canvas because it leaves fish eyes, but this resin is wonderful on glass as long as you have a frame around it that holds it in a reservoir and you put enough resin on it. And then I usually start putting the resin over the glass first and then around the perimeter, and spread it out with either a spoon or whatever tool I happen to be stirring the resin with. Once I have it all spread out, I use my little kitchen torch to get rid of the bubbles. So I lay out all the yellow flowers first. And I know I'm going through this kind of fast, so it's kind of difficult to see, but after I get the yellow flowers on, I put my gloves back on because I'm taking the little bit of the resin and just spreading it over the top of the flowers instead of dumping resin on top. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is textured glass, and if you dump resin on top of textured glass, the texture will disappear. So if you want the texture to show, it's in your best interest to just rub a little resin on and not dump the resin on top of it. Next, I start filling in areas with white flowers, and the flowers is actually celestial fireglass. It's just a clear fireglass that I've painted with Artist Loft iridescent medium. So it's celestial fireglass mixed with Artist Loft iridescent medium in a bowl, and then spread out on a non-stick paper. For this I used parchment paper, spread real far apart so that they don't stick, because they will stick. It has to dry overnight, and then the next morning crumble it in your hands to break it apart. Really turns out pretty. You can also do this with the Michaels crushed glass to make it white. So then I continue filling in with all the little white flowers. I think I'm using five petals for each of them. And then I do take a little bit of resin and just go over each of the white flowers, because I'm about to put a center on them and I want them to stick. And of course I like the white flowers to be shiny also. Next, I straighten the flowers out a little bit, as much as I can with a toothpick, and then I take this is actually green Dollar Tree glass. And after I did this, I almost wished I would have used a little darker color green, but I just filled in between all of the flowers with this green glass. And then I take a little bit of resin, trying to avoid dumping it on top of the flowers, but try to get it over the green glass. And again, I straighten things around with my toothpick, which I find is one of the easiest things to use to straighten stuff out on your project, is the toothpick. And then I take these little iridescent centers that I don't know if it came in the scrapbook section, and put it in the center of every one of the flowers. And you cannot, I put this on top of the resin because you cannot put resin over it, because it will take away the sparkly or iridescent qualities. After I'm done with the project, I always come back every 15 minutes to check for glass placement, to check for bubbles and retorch if needed, to check if there's any sediment in the project, get it out with a toothpick. This particular resin needs to cure at temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit on a flat level surface. All resins are different. You need to read the directions for the resin that you are using. Hey everyone, my umbrella and flowers. Started out, I was just going to do the flowers on one side and then have the cricket saying, I said, hello spring, I guess, on it. But my projects all evolve. I always think about one way to do it and then I end up changing it. But I think it looks pretty like that. So this textured glass, I think turned out real pretty, and I only sprayed the back of it, and really I think that's all you have to do. But I was worried if I sprayed the front, because it had the texture, I was afraid that it might, like if I got it too heavy on one part, that it might pool down in the little cracks. So that's why I only did the back of it on both the pink and the yellow. And with the resin, you saw I put the resin down first and then put the flowers on top of it, and just kind of swiped it with the resin to make it shiny, because if you pour resin over textured glass, the texture is not as visible. And you can see the texture in this. It looks pretty, but I think if I had made larger petals with the textured glass, not only would the texture be more visible, but it would have more of a, it would stand up more, because being such a short piece, it really doesn't have much of an arch to it. So if I had made a larger petal on another project, it would have more of an arch. So maybe I'll do that next, and you'll see the difference. But anyway, So anyway, I just did that the one time, the one coat, and then this I sprayed, and then after a half hour kind of shuffled it around and sprayed again to make it nice and dark, and probably could have even been lighter. It would have been pretty. But the centers of the flowers are just like cheap little iridescent, I don't know if they're beads, but they're appliques, I guess. They had sticky backs actually. And I didn't want to pour the resin over them because the iridescent qualities would disappear, the sparkly qualities. And I hope you can see it sparkling. And then I wished I would have put a different color in the middle of those white ones, but you know, I guess I could change it if I want. So anyway, all in all, I think it turned out pretty. So that was from I got this punch bowl set at a garage sale, $2. Do you believe that? Look at it. It says $2 on there. I was surprised because I said, what does that say? Because I thought it said something more, like $7. And they said $2. And I said, oh, I'll take it. And so that was a good deal. And I also got a bunch of other things at the garage sale. And this was all at one garage sale. This first garage sale I went to, 25 cents, 50 cents. And these other bowls were, well, this one was 25 cents also. I'm going to try to make something out of that, white flour. And these were all $1. And this is all cut glass. It's not, no, it's not cut glass. It's molded glass. Cut glass would be sharper, and it would be more valuable. And then this, I got two identical ones, $1 each. Isn't that pretty? This and this, two of them. $1 each. They were just giving this stuff away. So anyway, I got that. And then I was at another garage sale and I got this here. And it was the end of the day and I said, oh, she was starting to put her stuff away. And I said, how much? She said, $2. And I said, well, would you take one? And the only reason I said that was because I don't need anything. I have so much stuff, and I thought if I can't get it for $1, I don't need it. And of course, she gave it to me for $1. And I said, well, I don't need this. You can have this. And I started taking it out. She goes, no, if you're only paying $1, you have to take that too. I said, oh, okay. So anyway, I thought that was cool. I don't know if this is blue all the way through. It's from TJ Maxx. The bottom is blue, but oh no. Yeah, look at, I don't know if you can see that. There's some scratches on it. And so that's just paint on the outside. I wonder if they painted the inside too. That's why it's blue on the bottom too. But anyway, it'll still, you know, I could still use it for something. I can make some pretty blue flowers if I need. So if you're using glass that's not colored all the way through, if you're doing it on canvas, you can paint under it the same blue color, and that top portion that's clear will show blue. Or if you have a spray paint, like when I did the purple cabbage for my bunny rabbit, there was it was kind of a light purple, and I had the purple Tamaya, and I just sprayed it and made it a little bit darker, but it was pretty much the same color purple. But anyway, so that's pretty too. So so that was my garage sales. I haven't been to a lot of garage sales lately because I really don't need anything. I have so much stuff in my garage. But anyway, I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed the project. I hope you learned something, especially newbies. If you're trying to learn how to cut petals, those are real simple petals to cut. But you know, even if you wanted larger ones than that, you do the same thing. You just cut them a little bigger. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like. That really helps the channel. If you enjoy the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We have the Facebook page going. Oh my gosh. Do you know, I think we have over 13,000 people on the Facebook page now. I can't believe it. A lot of people posting their beautiful artwork. A lot of people, very helpful. If you have any questions, you're just starting out, great place to see what everybody's doing. Come join us there. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks for watching.